Sinds 7 oktober is de nood groot in Israël. En dankzij uw steun hebben we een noodfonds opgericht waarin we via onze noodactie geld hebben gegeven aan veel projecten in Israël. Waaronder het werk van het Joods Agentschap. Een van de plekken waar de nood hoog is onder de bewoners van de getroffen kibboetsen. Bij mij aan tafel Danielle Mor van het Joods Agentschap en Liora Eilon. Haar zoon werd vermoord op 7 oktober en haar huis verwoest. In deze uitzending deelt zij haar bewogen verhaal. Liora, Danielle, welcome. It's good to have you here, both. To start with you, Danielle, because you are both visiting the Netherlands for a few days. What is the reason for it?
Thank you, Sarah. We're here visiting with Christians for Israel in order to help and spread the message of what's happening in Israel now since October 7th, and to bring clearly the message of never forget and never again.
No, that's the reason. So why do you think it's so important to share this story, not to forget, Liora?
Well, we know what happened after the Holocaust. There was a lot of denial, and people heard, strange things from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So you say people were saying it never happened.
Yeah, and I feel that it's my duty to give testimony to whoever is willing to listen to me in order for people to know the truth and what actually happened on the 7th of October.
Mm-hmm. So how did you get to know each other, Danielle and Liora?
So after October 7th, with survivors and people that were evacuated from their homes, refugees in their country, were living in all kinds of conditions, the Jewish Agency, through its Fund for Victims of Terror, started visiting these different communities and different people to offer comfort, to offer support, and to make connections to help them rebuild in some way their lives. Mm-hmm. So in that way, Liora and I met, and Liora very courageously shared that she would be willing to even travel abroad to give her testimony.
And that's how you both met, and now you're here.
Yes, we spent 11 days in the United States with Liora and her 2 very brave granddaughters, and since then we became friends, and now we're here.
Yeah. So Liora, you have lived with your family in the kibbutz Kfar Aza, very close to the Gaza Strip. You've lived there already for 45 years. Can you describe me the kibbutz, what it's like?
Wow. I raised 4 children in kibbutz Kfar Aza in a very peaceful and beautiful neighborhood, which we used to say that it was 95% heaven and 5% hell. But when my children grew up until the year of 2000, it was 100% heaven. I mean, kids could run along everywhere. We used to travel to Gaza, buy stuff there, host people from Gaza in Kfar Aza. And we were neighbors.
Yeah, because before 2005, the Gaza was still open, so Israel was still present there. And it's already a long time ago. I didn't witness it myself, so can you describe how it was? Because it's difficult to imagine right now.
Well, the kibbutz hosted people from Gaza. They worked in the kibbutz. We used to go there to the beach, the kids, on Saturdays, on weekends, and it was sort of a neighborhood. I knew people from Gaza. They were friends of mine. I remember this one person who was an English teacher, but in Kfar Aza he worked in houses, building houses, and stuff like that.
So the contacts were good?
The contacts were good,
yeah. And then in 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza. In 2007, Hamas took over the power. So what changed there?
Well, ever since then, the borders were closed. We couldn't get in touch with the people from Gaza. It was a time when not even on the phone we could talk to them.
Why not?
Because they were afraid. They could be harmed if they kept contact with us. And then we formed a little group of people from the surroundings of Gaza, from Sderot, from the kibbutzim. We called it Other Voice. We wanted to let people in Gaza know that there's still people in their neighborhood in Israel that care for them and worry about them.
And the people in Gaza, we're talking about Palestinian people,
Yeah.
before 2005 and also after 2005.
Yeah, we used to call them and talk to them and care about them and ask them how can we help. They used to call us on times when there was war, like 2008, and worry about us. And so we did keep in touch with them from time to time, but not like before.
No. So tell me about, because you are also active, or you used to be before October 7th also in peace projects. Tell me about that.
Yes, I was part of an NGO called the Road to Recovery. I drove people from Gaza, from Erez's border to hospitals in the country. Sometimes parents with very little babies, and sometimes adults, who needed treatment in Israel and couldn't get it in Gaza.
So you helped sick Palestinian people from Gaza to the Israeli hospitals?
Yeah, I drove them with my car, voluntarily.
You speak Arabic?
No, unfortunately not.
So how could you communicate with them?
Well, the elderly people talk Hebrew very well because, they still remember the language from before. Young people already speak quite good English, and some of them we just, kept in contact with eyes and with, body language and just very few words, but with very warm hearts.
So why did you do this, help these Palestinian people on the other side?
They're human beings and they're suffering. I was suffering on my side from missiles that were thrown at us by Hamas. And we were both suffering, so I really needed to do something. Considering the answer, the question that I had in my mind, I was always thinking that one of those days, one of my grandchildren will ask me, "Grandma, what did you do when all this happened?" And I needed to have answers.
And that's the reason you did it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then October 7th happened. And I'm going to ask you later what happened exactly. But Danielle, also for you as working for the Jewish Agency, you have done a lot since October 7th. Can you describe in short what did the Jewish Agency do?
So the Jewish Agency is spread all across Israel and has connections in many of these communities, different kinds of partnerships. So,
already before October 7th? Huh?
Yes. So when October 7th, of course, first of all of our hearts were completely shattered. And many of our staff and volunteers and people that collaborate with us were in the kibbutzim and were in Sderot and Ofakim in these cities. There were people directly in our care that we had to get out of the line of fire, like 600 olim from Ethiopia that live right outside of Sderot, and that terrorists were on the fence of that center on October 7th shooting within. We evacuated them under fire already on October 8th. And many other Holocaust survivors and people living in that region that we had to take care of their security, protect their lives. And then at the same time, we saw as our role to be there for all of the people of Israel that were suffering. And so the main mechanism that we used since that day is our Fund for Victims of Terror, that in 21 years assisted some 9,000 families in 21 years. And just as a result of October 7th, has already assisted more than 10,000.
Wow, yeah. So the numbers have grown. Could you have imagined on October 7th the scale of what happened then?
No, I was in my home in Modi'in, and there were some sirens that went off that day, but what we were seeing on the TV and what I was getting on WhatsApp messages from some of my colleagues in Yated and in Erez and in Sderot and Ofakim was just completely unimaginable. And I think that since that day, it's clear to us that until there is some level of security, until we can say that our people are safe, we cannot rest. It's our duty to do everything we can.
Yeah. So Liora, October 7th, how was it for you? Can you take us back there?
Very traumatic, I must admit. First of all, I hosted two of my granddaughters at home, two of my kids, the eldest one, Hadas, and the youngest one, Ron. And 6:30 in the morning, we heard the alarm and we went straight to the safe room. There were a lot of missiles going off over our heads. Soon enough, they were shooting, and lots of WhatsApp messages that came in from a group of Kfar Aza, telling us that there are terrorists in the kibbutz, that people are being wounded, murdered.
When was the moment that you realized this is more than usual?
7 o'clock in the morning, my granddaughter got a message from her brother, who stayed in his home in Kfar Aza, telling her that there are terrorists in the kibbutz, that their father is out there fighting them. And he asked us to stay in the safe room and close the door. Doors cannot be locked in the safe room.
They can only be closed.
Yeah, they can only be closed.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, we realized that we are in a different situation than ever before.
Yeah. So what happened then? Because you were locked in the safe room, you got all these messages coming in, you knew that the terrorists were around. What did you do?
Nothing. We just had to be very quiet and with a closed door and we closed the iron window and the iron door. We stayed in the room, all 5 of us. And apparently we stayed there for 35 hours.
35 hours.
Through which my son and my daughter were holding the door all this time.
To close it,
yeah,
to keep it closed.
To keep it closed. While terrorists at a certain point trying to open it from the outside, fighting on the door. There was a battle going on inside my house and all around the neighborhood. There were a lot of IDF soldiers wounded in that battle. My house became a field hospital at a certain point for a lot of IDF soldiers that either died or injured in my house. We heard all that. There was an RPG thrown at my house, hand grenades, rifles.
What is an RPG?
Oh, it's a missile.
It's a remote projected grenade.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a grenade that's thrown through a projectile to cause more damage.
But still you were protected because you were in the safe room then.
Yeah, we were protected. Yeah. Some people were not protected even if, because what the terrorists did was shoot through the door, through the handle of the door, or it burned the door and the entire safe room on the people that were in there. And they did it in a lot of places in Kfar Aza.
Did you think you could come out alive from this?
I had the hope. I was praying to come out of it alive, especially my granddaughters and my kids, and of course me too. We held hope from all this time, but it was we didn't have any water, we didn't have any food, we didn't have any air. At a certain point, there was no electricity, so there was no light, no Wi-Fi connection. We were in complete darkness. Only my granddaughter Gali had Wi-Fi connection, so she in a very brave way, handled the situation, sending location to the soldiers.
Informing the soldiers about your location?
Not only sending the soldiers locations of other people who were wounded in Kfar Aza, sending them to save other people's lives. She's a very special kid. So we were there trying to hold, ourselves and each other. I can't even start telling you how bad it was. I mean, it was really very traumatic for all of us. But, we were saved, not unlike my son, Tal, who was killed, trying to save his home and fighting the terrorists. He was a commander of the civilian defense team.
He was also in the kibbutz?
Yeah, he lives in the kibbutz with his wife and 3 children. One of them was with me because she decided to have a sleepover at my place. So she was out of her home with her cousin, who is her age, and they're very good friends, so they both decided to have a sleepover at my place. But yeah, Tal, as I said, Tal was a commander of the civilian defense team in Kfar Aza, and he went out fighting the terrorists early in the morning, and we lost connection with him. We didn't know what happened to him until we got out on Sunday afternoon at about 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah. So then you went out and you saw that your house was torn to pieces?
Well, actually, my house, I didn't see that, and our evacuation was under fire. There were 2 terrorists hiding inside my house while they were evacuating us.
Still on October 8th?
Yeah, of course. So what happened was that they were hiding. The 2 terrorists were, I think it was 2, maybe 3. They were hiding in the next room, and the soldiers who came to evacuate us had to shoot inside the house while we were running out of it in order to prevent the terrorists to open the door and throw a hand grenade at us or shoot at us. So
you didn't have the time to look around and see?
I saw, when I ran out of the house, I saw a tank pointing its cannon towards my house. And once we were far enough, the cannon just went on, the tank just blew the house in order to make sure that the terrorists are dead.
Really?
So my entire house collapsed, was ruined completely on whatever was in it. So I lost my son, I lost my house, I lost everything that was in my house, and I came out of the house as a refugee, only with my clothes on.
And that's it?
And that's it.
And now, where do you live now? Because I imagine you're not living in Kfar Aza right now.
No, there's no place for me. There's no house in Kfar Aza to live in. And so once we were evacuated, the entire kibbutz members, it's about 950 people that were evacuated that day only from Kfar Aza, not to mention the other kibbutzim like Be'eri, Nir Oz, Nachal Oz, like Sderot, like Ofakim, like Netivot. We were evacuated to a hotel, Shfaim, near Tel Aviv. Half of us lived there. Half of us still live there. Like 400 people live in a hotel near Tel Aviv. I live now in students' dorms in the University of Reichman in Herzliya. I chose that because I needed a place to host my family again, and I got there an apartment house on the 5th floor, a dorm that is meant for 4 students to live in, so I got the whole apartment. And so I can have my 4 kids, now it's unfortunately 3 kids in my son's family. Yeah. So I can host them and have Shabbat dinners together again and try to get ourselves together and try to, rebuild the family.
How can you cope with such a trauma that your family has gone through?
Well, I found out while we were staying in the safe room, I really discovered that I have a very special family with resilience, and that holds us until now. We are all, getting care from psychologists, social workers. We were very much together in it. And besides that, in order to give meaning to all that happened, I felt that I need to be heard, that my voice needs to be spread in Israel and outside of Israel, and that's what I do.
And also here in the Netherlands, yeah. Because your son was killed on October 7th, and also members of the kibbutz were taken hostage into Gaza.
65 people were murdered, including families, children, grandparents, parents, all ages.
65 from Kfar Aza.
From Kfar Aza.
And there were also people from Kfar Aza taken hostage into Gaza? 19
were kidnapped to Gaza. 5 of them are still there, suffering. The two young women Emily and Dawn.
Do you know anything about their situation there?
Nobody knows. No, I don't know anything about their situation over there. That two brothers, twin brothers, 26 years old. There's one kid who is 64 years old. And they're all held there, hopefully still alive.
Yeah.
We don't know about that.
No. So, Danielle, this is one of the stories of all these refugees that had to flee from the kibbutzim and also from Sderot, close to the Gaza Strip. Also, people from the north had to flee for the war. So, what sticks to your mind if you hear all these stories? What is important to remember here?
It's important to remember that the fundamental promise that Israel was created in order to fulfill was broken on that day of October 7th, and it still remains broken.
And what do you mean by that?
The promise of never again. The state of Israel was established in order to give hope, to give safety to the Jewish people, that after thousands of years of persecution, and despite all of it, the Jewish people survived and were able to reestablish themselves as a nation in the land, and the land promised that here they will be safe.
Yeah.
And on this day of October 7th, that promise was broken.
Yeah.
And the people, the refugees, they still cannot go home, and they are in their own land.
Yeah.
So, whereas organizations like the Jewish Agency were keeping that promise for Jewish people all around the world, and you've seen it yourself, Sarah, hand in hand with Christians for Israel in Ukraine, or for Jews in Ethiopia. But in Israel, it was broken.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to bring that promise back, to bring our hostages home. And people all around the world need to remember and know what happened on October 7th and ask themselves, where do they stand? What are they going to do to help and give a hope and peace in this world?
So, as Christians for Israel, together with Jewish Agency, we established an emergency fund to help the people of Israel. So, a lot of people in Holland and also abroad supported this cause and are supporting Israel. So what is actually happening with the money?
Many important and beautiful things. Support is going directly to people that need it the most, also as financial help, also as forms of therapy. Just today, as we're sitting here in the Netherlands, there are 700 children in Israel that are victims of terror that are participating in a day camp for Passover through the Jewish Agency. These are Jewish children, Bedouin children, Christian children that are all victims of terror and are now able to have some air to breathe and to feel safe. There's a lot of support that's going into the communities itself to help them in different projects of rebuilding and being able to start considering for some of them to go back. Elderly and Holocaust survivors in our homes have been receiving food, hot packages of hot meals.
Many NGOs are helping in Gaza, or trying to help in Gaza, because they say that the problems there are so big and so great. So is there also, could you say that the need in Israel, can you describe how the need is for help in this way?
The need in Israel is immense, because we're speaking about still approximately 150,000 that are living as refugees in their own country. We're speaking about a nation that is truly in mourning for all of its loved ones that are lost. We're speaking about soldiers and civilians that are suffering horrendous wounds that still now, months later, they have to struggle to try and walk again, or to be able to breathe independently again. People are still going in and out of the hospitals. Soldiers are dying and fighting virtually each and every day. We hear more news. What happened on just Saturday night with this attack, the first ever attack of its kind from Iran on Israel.
About the attack of Iran, yeah.
And the fact that, I don't want to make comparisons between Israel and Gaza, and the reality, and also Liora related to this, is that there are people in Gaza that are suffering horribly now. And they're suffering at the hands of a terrorist, murderous organization that would rather use them as human shields, that would rather hurt their own people, all at the cost of destroying Israel. They're not fighting because they want a better future for their people. They're fighting because they want to destroy Israel and the Western world. That is their motivation.
Right.
Whereas our motivation is to give our people safety and peace. And by doing so, we can also give a hope for the people of Gaza.
Right. So, Liora, before the war, you were active in helping Palestinian children to go to the hospital, also trying to bring peace closer. Do you still believe in that cause?
Yes. Yep. I've decided to join the Bereaved Families Circle, which contains Palestinian families and Israeli families who lost their beloved ones in wars. I still believe in the human beings as human beings. I'm not naive to think that everything is good and everything is great, both in Palestine and in Israel. But I do believe that we've tried war, never worked for us. I think it's time to try something else. And it's not that I think that the Hamas could, we could do peace with the Hamas. No. There's a lot of work ahead of us in order to bring some peace to the area. But I do believe it's possible, and as long as I can do anything to bring out that voice, I will do that.
Yeah. Do you think one day you will return back to Gaza?
That depends. Danielle spoke about the promise that was broken. Trust was also broken. Trust that we can be safe in Gaza, that there is a government that will protect us. The trust that no missile will be thrown at us from Hamas in Gaza. In order for us to feel, to go back to Gaza, we need to feel safe, we need to be secured. And I want very much my home to be rebuilt. I miss my home, I miss the place where Tal grew up in, the paths that he used to run along barefoot amongst the trees and on the grass of Gaza, even though his late father told him not to run on the grass, just walk through the paths because you need to let the grass grow.
So these memories are still there?
I have so many memories. I have such a warm heart towards Gaza, and I really hope to be able to return one day.
Yeah. What do you think, Danielle? Do you think Liora will return one day?
I very much hope so, and I hope so, not because we need to keep the border strong and not because that, there's some political motive, but because I think that in some ways for Liora and for her community, their heart can heal best in the place that they love the most. But we have to make sure that it's safe for them and that they can be strong there and not plagued by bad memories, but build new good ones.
Yeah. Danielle, Liora, thank you very much for coming to our studio. En u thuis ook bedankt voor het kijken naar deze uitzending van Christenen voor Israël. En we vertelden het ook al in de uitzending dat we als Christenen voor Israël samen met het Joods Agentschap ook een heleboel projecten ondersteunen. En dat is onder andere ook de herbouw van huizen zoals die van Liora die verwoest zijn, die wij helpen om weer te herstellen. En u kunt daar ook bij betrokken zijn. U kunt een gift geven via onze website cvi.nl/noodfonds. Zo kunt u ook allerlei projecten in Israël ondersteunen, waaronder ook Liora en haar familie. Nogmaals, dank voor het kijken en graag tot de volgende keer.